and welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. It's officially summer, and I hope that you're all out there enjoying all the fun that summer brings. Hopefully, some fun and some relaxation I focus on. I know I have been doing my best, of course, to do that as we get into the summer months. So I'm really excited about today's episode. We have Lyubim Kogan. He's here to share about his life experience with all of us. Lyubim is a global leader, a finance expert, a best-selling co-author, 9/11 survivor, a Winter Olympian, and founder of Wings4Heroes. He's an amazing organization, so I can't wait to share all this with you today. That list is so intense. So welcome, Lyubim, to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Pete. I'm really excited and looking forward to this
it's going to be a good conversation. So we're in much different time zones, so I appreciate you making the time. And your bio is really, really impressive, and I'm not even sure where to begin. So let's just start. Like, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the former Soviet Union in the 70s.
Okay.
And I was a product of Cold War. My image of the United States growing up was that President Reagan was sitting next to a red button, and he could hit it any time, and it would be the end for all of us. So that's my childhood. I grew up during Afghanistan war. I was 5 when it started, and it ended when I was 16. So my entire conscious life and going through school, it was on the background, and the possibility of going to fight that war was always present. And I think that's one of the big reasons why I am doing right now what I'm doing,
which we'll get into. Yeah. So I think for a lot of most of our listeners are going to be probably U.S. based, I'm going to assume. Maybe you'll bring in some others from, but they might be confused about Afghan wars and.
Okay. So basically, I moved to the States in 92. It was 1 year after Soviet Union broke up. Well, first the Berlin Wall fell, and then the Soviet Union broke up.
That's right.
I am from Republic that was Ukraine. Now it's an independent country, and everybody knows what's going on about the war that is going on right now in Ukraine. And maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later. But I came in 92. I am, I would say, one of those immigrant stories. I was 17 years old. I was a professional skier, and I knew that I wanted to ski. So I came with one bag that had my ski boots, a jumping suit, and a helmet.
Wow.
I wore my training suit, and I did not even have socks to wear. So,
this might be a stupid question, but which event? Like, are there different events that you do? Yeah.
My sport is ski jumping. So we're the guys that go fast down the ramp, and we go 60 miles an hour head forward, and we split our skis and we try to get in between and fly as far as possible. So
I guess I'll learn more about this, Lyubim, but I'm going to say you're a risk junkie. Maybe you like these adrenaline.
Well, everybody says that, but I am the guy who cannot live with my fears. So if anything scares me, I'm doing it. I'm not really in that for a thrill, but I am in that. I'm the type of person that fear actually motivates me to move forward. So if I'm afraid, I'm actually pushing forward, and I'm going towards my goals. And the more scary it gets, the more I know that I'm doing the right thing.
That is so impressive, and I know that's going to help a lot of listeners. I mean, it helps me to hear that because we say it, but to really live it, and you're absolutely living it. So wait, okay, so you ended up at NYU, so New York University, at some point.
It was my dream to go to school in New York City, and it was my dream to work in the World Trade Center. And at the same time, it was a dream to go to the Olympics. So you know how they say, be careful what you wish for. I'm training in Lake Placid, New York, it's a 600-mile round trip, and I was a full-time student at NYU. And on Thursday nights, I would get on the bus at the bus station on 42nd and go to Albany. And in Albany, I would pick up my car and I would drive to Lake Placid. I would train, and I would come back on Sunday night, or when it was the competition season, I would come back on Monday morning for my Monday class. So I spent 2 years actually commuting 600 miles every weekend so I could ski jump,
That's really commitment. So were you studying finance? Can I, because I was
finance, finance and accounting. I have a I double majored. I have 2 degrees from NYU, accounting and
I
finance.
mean, why am I not surprised that you double majored? You know, as this high
I don't know
achiever over here.
why you're not surprised, but basically when you're paying that tuition, NYU was always expensive. If they offer you a second major, it's like a 50% discount, you know?
Yeah, I,
So
I I like a good deal too. Yeah.
yes,
So Wall Street was always a goal. Would you say that? Like, you knew you wanted to be on Wall Street, or
finance was the goal, even
yeah,
though I had no idea what it was. You know, it was
yeah.
always fascinating, like seeing big buildings, seeing that energy being in New York. I came to New Jersey. You know, we had family members who lived in New Jersey, just right across the river, and
I know
being
Jersey.
so close.
I'm in Jersey, Lyubim. I know Jersey very, very well.
I know when you were talking about Rutgers, I knew that
Yeah, yeah.
we used to be neighbors. I used to live in Weehawken.
Oh, yes. I used to live in Jersey City, so
Okay, and I
yes,
used to take the train, or I
yeah,
used to take the boat from Hoboken.
yeah. Well, that was fancy. The boat is fancy. I was taking the PATH train, or there were these jitney buses too.
Okay.
Back in the
Yeah.
day. But yeah, it's a beautiful ride. And I always say that we had the best skyline, like
Yeah.
compared to Brooklyn. Now, wait, this is kind of interesting because you started by saying your image of the U.S. was always like Reagan sitting by a red button, so it wasn't positive. And yet
No.
here, and then there you were, like always with this dream to come to New York to study. I mean, that evolved over time.
Actually, it was, when it was my dad who decided that we were going, because early 90s when Soviet Union broke up Ukraine, it was, it was, the crime was everywhere. It was really,
Mm,
it was chaos, it was real chaos. And because Afghanistan was going on when I was growing up, my dad always told me that we are leaving,
yeah,
that he will not let me go,
yeah,
that he would do whatever it takes so I don't have to wear those boots. Because it's not, like when you are joining the army in the United States, it's an honor. But in the former Soviet Union, they would draft you and send you somewhere to kill people. So,
yeah, yeah,
our family does not subscribe to that, even though I deal with veterans, for them, the war
yeah.
is over. It's my mission is peaceful. I'm taking care of people who took care of us.
Amen. Yeah. So how long did you work in? I mean, we're going to get to that because that's like the whole really big piece of what you're doing today. But how long did you work in finance for?
My whole entire life. It was 24
Okay.
years. I lived 24 years in the States. I ran my own practice for 12 years. It was my own business. Before that, I worked for American Express.
Yeah.
But, the only thing that I know is finance and investments, and,
Yeah.
personal interest was taxes. But I've been away for 10 years, so I am not up to speed. I know general principles, but
Yeah.
exactly what's going on. I kind of stepped away from that.
Well, and for good reason. So one of the things that you do, have talked about is in the intro being a 9/11 survivor. So, after living in New York City for all those years in college, um, when you talk about Wall Street, all of us that lived there during that time, we know that you experienced that. So can you share that personal experience with us?
It's definitely one of the most traumatic days in my entire life.
Yeah.
Um, I actually, it was February of this year was the first time when I went back.
Oh, wow.
So on 9/11, I walked away,
Yeah.
and the city was shut down. They moved in the National Guard. It looked like a war zone,
Oh, yeah.
and they closed the roads. But as soon as they opened up the roads, I knew that I'm done with New York. I went to school. I worked in the World Trade Center where I wanted to work, and now it doesn't exist anymore. So I
Hmm.
knew I'm not a city person.
Yeah.
I'm a skier. I love nature, and I
Hmm.
wanted to go away for a long time. But that was the final push for me. But
Yeah.
I will always remember how brave they were. I
Yeah.
remember when everyone was running out, how police and firemen were running in,
Yeah.
and
Yes. Yes.
that is really memorable. I have a lot of respect for those men and women, and I actually went to Fire Engine 10,
Hmm.
and on our website I post all the public videos, and I actually made a little tribute of what it means to me. But I
Yeah.
realized what PTSD is, when you
For
go
sure.
25 years later and
Hmm.
you look where your buildings used to be, and
Yeah.
it's like yesterday, it's like just
Yeah.
everything though, that those emotions, they flush through you.
Mm.
And to me, it made it very real what our veterans go through, you know?
Yeah. I,
So
I mean,
that is one of the things that, yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that. I mean, I think it's again that will help a lot of people because that was really such a traumatic event. I was close by. I wasn't in the city, thankfully, because I know it was really hard to get out. And so you were at work in the buildings. Yeah.
I was downstairs, and
Yeah.
when I didn't know, when you're downstairs, you don't know what's happening. Like it looked like our building burnt overnight because it was light gray smoke
Yeah.
coming out. But then when the second building, so North Tower is our tower, got hit first.
Yeah.
But when the South Tower got hit, and I was on the north side, so the plane flew from the south, and
Yeah.
the flame went towards the north, and I was standing on the side where you could see that flame, and
Mm.
I was a block away, and it was boom,
You
it
felt the
shook the
shake.
whole, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went to NYU because NYU was the second largest property holder after the Catholic Church in
Yes.
New York City.
That's right.
And if you look at the Stern School of Business, like you see, I think it's like 9-story building above the ground, but all the
Yeah.
classrooms you go down below. So I knew it was a bunker.
Yeah.
And I thought if we're being attacked, I'm going to school. There are vending machines, there's security, there are phones, and you are deep down. So I walked towards NYU.
God,
And
that
by
was
the
really.
time I got
Yeah.
there, I knew what was going on because all the businesses, people were rolling out TVs, turning on radios. So you didn't
Yeah.
need to stop, and cell phones were jammed, and I had my
Yeah.
ID, and there was like one or two pay phones that would work, and there were lines of people lined up,
Mm.
and I would just walk up, show the ID, and everybody's like, and
Yeah.
then there was one cab, Dr. P, there was one cab, and I needed to go north because our friends lived on the west side, I think like in 120th
Oh
Street.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Up
the
there.
guy worked for Reuters, so they had a squawk box. They could talk directly with Cantor Fitzgerald, the
Yeah.
company that lost most of the traders, and they
Yeah.
were just few floors above us. We were on 83rd, and I think they were like 89 and up.
Oh man.
So people let you use the phone, they
Hmm.
give you a taxi, and I don't know why it's all coming back like it was yesterday. So
Yeah. Well, it's the brain.
look,
And again, I think it's a very powerful story, and I really appreciate you sharing it, and even sharing that this February. So we're recording this in 2025. So this past February 2025 was the first time you went back since 9/11.
since 9/11, so almost 25 years.
Yeah, almost 25 years. Yeah. So, and you said you felt the emotions like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You walk out and you look, it's one big hall
Yeah.
surrounded with a monument with people who used to work in the building,
Yeah.
and you feel like really blessed, that you came
Absolutely.
home and they didn't.
Yeah. And
Excuse
like,
me.
oh no, I mean, and you have to believe in something bigger than you when the one cab is there, when you think to go to NYU to get down into the basement. Like those were, Lyubim, like that's really really impressive. Like your brain and something above you was helping you.
Survival, it's a real instinct, and I think that if everything shuts off, and you
Mm.
probably know it because you know how brain works,
Yeah,
it will work automatically to save us. I think
absolutely.
people who live in the normal environment, our brain tries to save us from imaginary issues, and then we create real issues. But when we come into an extreme situation, then something, that that
Yeah,
old brain, what do you call it, the kicks in, and it's just you survive, you go. It's
absolutely.
no
Yeah.
thinking, it's just going. And for me, it was go north, go to school, go down.
Yeah, it's the nervous system, it's the reptilian brain. It just says like I got to keep this person alive, and
Exactly.
that's exactly what we do. So, and so you weren't a city person. So even though you had this dream to live in the city, so then you're like that moment. Okay, I'm done with New York. The
Yes.
and you end up in Ukraine. So tell us
No,
like,
actually, yes,
oh
I wish. We're talking about 2001, right? So
yeah,
2001, I moved to California, then I moved to Texas,
uh,
then I moved to Colorado,
oh geez,
and it was a really long journey of finding my home.
hmm.
And because the way the situation happened, I was technically classified as a displaced person, and one of the
Hmm.
organizations that helped me was the Red Cross. They sent me a check for $15,000, and they told me, go rebuild your life.
Wow,
So I know there's a lot of controversy about that organization, but for me, it means a lot.
Yes.
And it means a lot not only because they helped me, but because I actually went around the world to find out th- for myself of how different societies keep promises to people who
Mm.
want to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my stops was the Red Cross Museum in Geneva. And I found out that it was in 1859, a Swiss banker named Henry Dunant. He
Mm-hmm.
traveled for business to Italy,
Mm-hmm.
and he arrived on June 25th on the day when Battle of Solferino was fought. And at
Wow.
that battle, at the end of the day, there were 40,000 dead and wounded soldiers on that field, and there was not one person helping.
Oh my
So
goodness.
Henry Dunant organized all the villagers, and at that time, because men were fighting wars, there were women, and they were pulling people out for like more than 1 week. They filled all the churches, but it was just a big mess. And
Mm.
he was so touched by his experience that he went back to Geneva and he wrote a book that's called A Memory of Solferino. And that
Mm.
book got such wide attention that
Mm-hmm.
less than 1 year later, the Red Cross was started.
So
And
that so wait so and then so that check was after 9/11 in 2001,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
with that you start to like say, hey, where am I going to land? And so you try California, you try Colorado, all these U.S. you know.
So California, Texas, actually in Texas, I worked for 1 year, but it was not my place. It was really hot. You have to drive 20 hours to find snow.
Yes.
And
Oh, right.
it's super, super hot. We were in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. Great
And
city, but
then
no.
American,
Yeah, great city,
yeah,
but no snow there.
right. And then American Express in Denver hired me, and that's how I
Ah,
moved to my home. I call it home. Wings4Heroes
yeah.
is incorporated. It's a public service corporation. It's a Colorado-based
Ah.
corporation. And the only reason why I am not in the States, because in order for me to start something like this in the States, it would
Mhm.
take me hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and
Yeah.
years in paperwork. Where in Turkey, I found somebody, I found the company where pilots flew people with disability. And I said, look, I have this idea. I want to take an amputee who just came back from war, and I want to scare them so much that they will forget that they're missing legs. And they said,
Mm.
okay, let's try it. And
Yeah.
that's how we flew our first guy, who is actually, he is on our logo. It's our first passenger. His name is Valik.
Yeah.
He's 21-year-old who, he went to defend his country, and he got shot in the leg, and he is an amputee. And
Mm.
one of the things that I wanted to share with you, Dr. Pete, because I think it's important for people to know, and your professional opinion. You see, he went to defend his country,
Mm.
and he sacrificed a part of his body, but 2 years later, he has not had one psychological treatment.
Oh, yeah, it's really terrible. So not United States, or is it, where's
We're talking about Ukraine.
Ukraine?
And
Okay.
then, this mission is going to the States in November. I'm planning on bringing it to Torrey Pines, San Diego, right next to the naval base,
Yeah.
because they have a flying chair and they have pilots who can fly
Hmm.
people with
All
disabilities
right.
or limited mobility.
I want to get to this because that's Wings for Heroes, so that's what I want to hear. But in you asking that, I mean, I think that it's such an important observation that you're making, and I'm not saying the United States does it better by any means. I'm saying that there is a policy in place now that every veteran that returns has to have at least one meeting with a psychologist in the U.S. And
Okay.
so I think that's a policy of a step in the right direction. Uh, and so I don't know if it's probably not the case for most countries.
I have a very vast experience with what's going on in the United States, because I opened my practice. My first client was 2004,
Yeah.
and he was a Vietnam veteran who became a small business owner. His business
Hmm.
was asbestos removal. He had an
Hmm.
asbestos removal company. And one time he went to see a doctor who told him, his name was Bill. She said, Bill, you've been um, around people for 30 years. You haven't killed anybody. You haven't hurt anybody. Please tell me what's going on in your head. And he felt comfortable enough to tell her what was going on in his head.
Yeah.
And 2004, it was a big, 2003 and 4 were big years when there was a lot of uprising with the population that our veterans are not being taken care of.
Yeah.
And Congress was passing laws. And actually, Bill was one of those lucky people who received a check for all the past. I think they gave him $110 disability for all the years since the day he came back from Vietnam. And
Wow.
since I know, I was handling their retirement plans, they actually gave, after his death, his wife received benefits for 10 years. So she got a pension for 10 years.
That's amazing. So
The
wait,
United
so tell us about Wings4Heroes. I want to make sure that we get like that because that's your thing. So you go to Turkey because they're able to form it. So tell us about Wings4Heroes.
um, I was now we're fast forwarding. So 2014, when the war started in Ukraine, when Russia annexed Crimea, I was in Ukraine and I saw how scared people were. Because in 2008, 2009, that's actually my claim to fame. Those were the years when I moved all my clients out of the market because I found $50 billion loss in footnotes of Citibank. It was not on financial statements, but it was in footnotes, which means it would eventually make it to the financial statements. And I moved all my clients out of the market, and then it wasn't enough. I started a radio show, and my radio show actually grew. I was in 7 states on 11 different stations.
Nice.
And so I met a lot of people around the United States after the crisis started. I remember how scared people were. That everyone was paralyzed. I mean, it was
Totally.
just do nothing. Don't talk to me about finances. Just like we have to get through it. And when they came to Ukraine, it was exactly the same thing. People were looking for leadership, and I was that guy who came from the United States with an education, with experience, and they were asking for help. And I said, okay, without really thinking or realizing what I was getting myself into. And I was running an infrastructure company. As they say, I had no paycheck, I had no plan, I had no margin for error. And I was at one of the gas stations and I saw a double amputee roll out in the wheelchair. And he was one of our highway stations, and he went towards the highway, and I noticed it, and I'm like, where is this guy going? There is no walkway, forget about pathway for a wheelchair. And I carried on with my work. 20 minutes later, a huge thunderstorm rolls in. I mean, we're talking about, it was just massive, one of those really strong summer thunderstorms. And I called my driver and I said, look, you got to get the truck. Get the pickup truck. We're an infrastructure company. We had a lot of cars. I said, I need you here with the pickup truck now.
Yeah.
So he came really fast, and we followed the guy, and we found him by the side of the road, splashed in mud. All the trucks are going by in the right lane, and he was in such bad shape. Even if you clean him up, the guy was really hurting. So we put him in the car, we load the chair, we drove him to his place, and I was like, that was the beginning and the moment when I knew that if I get a chance to do something, I will definitely do it.
So that's how Wings4Heroes was born.
That was the thought.
Yeah.
But the way it was born is actually we fast forward 2006. That was about 2015 or 16. Now we fast forward to now, beginning of the full scale invasion. I saw a teenage girl walk out in front of a stadium of full of people, and she said, "You know what? They can take a part of our land, they can take a part of my body, but they're not going to break me."
Yeah.
And the reaction she had on the stadium, it was like, that was the moment that I said, okay, I'm not thinking, I'm doing something,
Yeah.
So that was the beginning. But then
so tell us about it. So what is it?
It's Wings4Heroes is an evolving mission. It's a humanitarian mission. I don't have any flags. I don't have any. There are no borders. Like I said, in November, we will be in the States. And in a few years, I think we will be all around the world. It started with an idea that if I can scare somebody to death, they will forget that they're missing legs or arms or whatever. And that actually worked, because I remember going paragliding the first time. I ski jumped and I tried all the crazy things in my life, but that really scared me. I said goodbye to my
paragliding
goodbye to my dad, goodbye to my brother. I don't even know the guy behind me, right? We're flying. There's no fuselage. It's like the chairlift looks like this big. And I said, look, stop. And then I was like this at the bottom. And I kind of combined the two experiences, thinking that when we take them flying, that's the moment where they will forget. And you as a professional know that sometimes we need this life-changing one experience that can reset them mentally.
Yeah.
So we reset them mentally. Then we add physical therapy. Then we added psychologists this year. And it's just things that are, it was a 7 day. We take them out, we take our veterans out of their environment and we place them in it's like this is a really loving environment, quiet, where they're on the beach, they're submerged into culture. So they asked, we need a few more days. 7 is not enough. We need 3 more days to sleep. So last mission was April 9 to 19.
Yeah.
We had one amputee and one deaf veteran who came out, and they spent 10 days here and added
Beautiful.
physical therapy and the first psychological treatment that a guy who lost his hearing because the hand grenade went off next to him and took off half of his face. They had to stitch his ear. It was his first, he spent almost 3 years in the front lines.
Yeah.
And it was his first psychological session. So now it's just evolving, Dr. Pete. It's just, I knew that if I build it, that people would come. I kept telling myself, just build it, they will come. Build it, they will come.
Well,
and they built it. And
Lyubim, you are building, and I know that you've said you want to be able to offer this for 50,000 heroes, and I think that that's really impressive. How do you plan to reach that goal?
Well, by talking to people like you.
Yeah, just getting the word out there.
Getting the word out. And, I have, because I was an athlete all my life, I have this work ethics that, helped me get through school, build a business, survive in the States, then go back to Ukraine. So survive there. I'm a survivor and I take massive action.
Yeah.
I went to Denver early this month and I saw that there are no people, like downtown is empty. And it really scared me. So I thought, like, how am I going to reach people now if nobody's even going to the office?
Right.
And, I just, I started doing podcasts and, in first month, I just scheduled my 49th appearance today. And I'm sleeping maybe 3-4 hours a day. I took a little nap before we met, but I'm doing it for people. It's like this, Dr. Pete. There is war and there's peace. And that space is occupied by men and women who said, no, you're not coming my way. And by the way, the war wants to go west all the time. It's always coming from the east and it's going west.
Of course.
So these people are so important because if they are gone,
that
the east is going to come really close. And I don't want it ever to come to the States. United States is my home. I am here temporary. I'm a guest. I'm doing a work where I can do it. And I couldn't do it anywhere else as efficiently. It was all one-man show for 2 years. No sponsors, no donations, no crew, no employees, no office, nothing. I just wanted to answer this question that people always ask, like, Lyubim, you're just one guy. This is meant for the governments to do. Our governments should do it, or their government should do it. And I was like, no, I can do it.
You're a man of action. You're not standing by to let anybody do it. Wait, can you, like, before we have to wrap up, believe it or not, but can you, is there like one story that stands out for you that maybe you would share with a veteran that has kind of gone through this? I know you mentioned a few, but is there one really memorable kind of impact that this has had?
I think what would be appropriate for your audience is that, we always think we don't know how much strength we have inside. We don't know how much resilience we have, the mental part, the emotional part. But when you meet somebody who is, 23 years old is a kid. I think back, I went to the Olympics when I was 23. And I think about that 27 years from then till now, how rich and full my life was. But then I see how many people dropped off on the way because they doubted themselves. Now you take the people who lost a part of their body and you tell them, do you want to do this? Yes. Do you want to do this? Yes. Do you want to try this? Yes. So one thing that I learned from them, that they are so inspiring. They show us how much strength we have. Like this is temporary, like the body, it will stop functioning at some point.
Absolutely.
But what's inside of us, if we live from inside, I call it the heart compass, we are unlimited. They really showed us that we are unlimited.
Lyubim, that is such a great place to end with the heart compass. You know, thinking about all listeners have a heart compass, and I know there's going to be a lot of listeners that are really impacted by your story. So, how can they find you, and how can they learn more about Wings for Heroes?
Thank you for asking, Dr. Pete, because wings4heroes.org has all the information. I wanted people to know what one man can do. So first it was, this is what I will do. Now the website is snapshot of what has been done. And if you scroll down to the bottom of any page, you will see the videos that I'm making and telling the story. So all the story, as best as I can, I am telling the story on wings4heroes.org. So if you have the link
Check
in
it
the
out.
description,
Yes.
it's all there.
Yep.
And
Yep.
to
So
reach
check it
me,
out.
you hit the contact button and you get the guy. You know, you get
Perfect. So
directly
listeners
to me.
can head right to the this episode description. We'll have the link in there for you. And Lyubim, thank you so much for being here. You truly are remarkable, and I appreciate you sharing your story today and your emotion and obviously your passion. Thank you.
I hope I inspired some of your listeners to take action and follow their dreams. You know, we're not going to be on this planet for a long time.
That's right.
And if one person decides I'm going to go after my dreams, that meant everything to me. And I'm really grateful for this invitation, because without you, I cannot spread the word. And that's what I need to do, just to let people know that we can do a lot. And I am doing it for those who don't have the time.
Yes.
Or whatever. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so we'll keep spreading the word, that's for sure. So check out the show notes to learn more about that. And Lyubim, thank you all for listening at home. Your support is what keeps us going, and I look forward to bringing you some new content all summer long. Please like, follow, and share everywhere at officialdrpete.com, and I'll see you back here next week. Until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.